maybe some anecdotal notes throughout, give you a little bit more detail, and get through all these slides, probably in about 30 to 35 minutes here. Neural sports vision training can be broken down. I break it down into three main areas. What we see, so with our eyes, how we process the information we receive, so everything that happens in back of the eye, down in here, and then how we react to that visual information. So if I was to throw something at you, what is your musculoskeletal response to that? So those are the three main areas that when we're training is what we want to look at, and how we want to address each one of them will change within the athlete. So how do we see? The first step of any of this sports vision training is light that comes in through the front of your eye. The amount of light that enters your eye is controlled by your pupil, which dilates or contracts to allow in less or more light. The light is then passed through your lens that helps you focus that light into the back of your eye. Now, if there's any eye doctors out there, optometrists, this is a pretty basic idea for some of our younger students to be able to grasp exactly what happens here. The light projected onto the back of the eye is then picked up by millions of light sensors called rods and cones. So at this point, we still don't have an actual image. It's still just light being picked up by photoreceptors. It's not really developed into an image yet. The light receptors in the retina that pass that information through the optic nerve into the brain, where then now we perceive all that light into an image. Sports vision training is the development of a person's visual skills to help them improve upon those skills. The overall goal is to help the athlete develop a stronger set of visual tools that can be used in his or her particular sport. That last statement, we're going to get into that a little bit deeper as we go. How we process. So we looked at the eyes, and now we're looking at the brain. The brain routes images to specific parts of the brain for final processing. So from the optic nerve into wherever it needs to go to be able to be processed. The brain evaluates the images received and calculates a response to that stimuli sent. Once a response is calculated, that information is sent out from the brain to a specific part of the body to initiate a motor response, which is our reaction, our response to whatever we see, whatever we're doing. Again, I throw something at you, your eyes pick it up, your brain says, oh, something's coming at me, I better put my hand up to block it, and then you put your hand up to block it. Cognitive mental training, CMT, for sports is the training of a wide variety of mental skills to help increase athletic performance. So in this area, we're trying to train in back of our eyes, trying to go a little bit faster, to pick up more information. Not only can strong cognitive skills help with processing speed, accuracy, and overall decision-making, but CMT can also play a role in setting the proper mindset and developing mental toughness. And you can see that when we train certain athletes, the mindset part of it, and then again, trying to develop some mental toughness as we improve this routing or this processing within the brain. How we react. So this is that kind of that final step. Messages sent from the brain to a particular part of the body will direct the muscles to respond in the desired manner. The cycle completes with the motor response initiated by the body. Neurodynamic refers to the communication or the synthesis between the nervous system and the musculoskeletal system. Body movements are initiated by visual cues that are processed by the brain from the information collected by the visual system. So you can imagine how this three-step process, how quick your brain is processing and continuing to reprocess all of this information in what I'll say is a skating stride. So if the reaction, this third part, is our musculoskeletal response to what we're seeing or doing in the environment, then you think of how many times that is happening per second just to develop a skating stride, especially a quick stride. So in essence, the eyes look, the brain sees, and the body reacts. What are the benefits of neurosports vision training? So ocular, so the eyeball, the visual motor skills. So some of the benefits are it improves the speed of your eye. Accuracy. We got a mic and a camera on there.
Zoe?
Enjoy.
Zoe, can we have you mute your mic and turn off your camera, please?
Oui, mais comment... Chez elle? Chez elle? Oh non.
Sorry, Andrew.
No problem. No worries. There we go. So ocular.
Hey, Noah?
Oh,
Noah? Noah? Oui, mais ça je sais pas qu'est-ce que t'as pesé. T'as pesé un paquet d'affaires. Je sais pas, j'ai essuyé.
there. Oh,
I can't get her mute mic on my end as the host either. Zoe, are you able to hear me? Okay, Mercer, she's muted now. Thanks.
all right. So ocular, or our eyeball, the visual motor skills. We can improve the speed of the eye, the accuracy of the eye, the endurance of the eye, and improved tracking abilities. So we can improve how fast your eye can move, the accuracy when it's finding something to be able to get to that point, the endurance or the muscular endurance, how long it'll go before it starts to slow down, like any other muscle in our body that fatigues, or improve tracking abilities where if we think about our eye, it doesn't always move in a smooth motion. We can have it choppy, which then can take away the accuracy. It can wear on our endurance because the eye is moving. Maybe as it's panning left to right, it might skip a little bit. So we're looking to improve the smoothness. Then we can obviously work on everything else as well through there. So a lot of different things that we can work with just our eyeball as well to get a better image to the brain. So get better light quality to produce a sharper, clearer, more accurate image so our brain can get better information. The better the information we receive here, the more accurate response we can put out. Cognitive, that's the mental. That's what goes on in your brain, the processing skills. Neuroplasticity of the brain, increased working memory, faster processing speeds, the ability to process larger amounts of information. So that neuroplasticity is just making sure that our brain is able to do things right to left, left to right. Whatever we do with one hand, we can do with the other hand, and not kind of lock ourselves into just being able to do something one way. You're throwing a ball and catching it, throwing, catching, throwing, catching. We want to make sure we're working the opposite way, so that way we're creating multiple routes within our brain. Increase working memory, being able to look at something quickly and be able to take in more information through there, to be able to where all the players were on the ice, whether you're a forward or a goalie, you get a little snapshot, be able to try to keep that information of where all the players were, where they might have been going, what is their direction of movement, how are they moving around the ice. Faster processing speeds. Well, you go from AA up to AAA, you have to process faster. It's that adjustment to the game. You see that all the time when we watch TV, and this guy was just called up from the American League and he doesn't quite fit in yet. It's a faster game. He has to make decisions much faster. We get used to it because we develop those skills, but this sports vision training can help us develop those as well. And the ability to process larger amounts of information. So again, looking at not just where the players are, but what hand they were, who they were, perhaps if you're looking out for certain players, the direction of movement on the players, the space distance between your player and the defending player around them. So to be able to take in more of that information. So again, you can make a better assumptions. You think a quarterback takes a look at a field, and then he even tries to look off his receivers, and he has to know where everyone was. And then even the next step, time it. If there was a defending player coming towards his player, how much time does he have to throw the ball? And he has to do that with his working memory of what he just seen, because now he shifted his vision somewhere else, so they don't think he's throwing over there. So a quarterback has to have loads of information, process it extremely fast, but then be able to make a change in his decision very, very quickly. Neurodynamics, that's what we talked about, the reaction or the movement. So we want to develop increased efficiency of neural pathways, allowing musculoskeletal and nervous systems work together. So our musculoskeletal is one system, we could say. In my hands here, I have bones, and I have the ligaments and tendons, and they're all connecting to the muscle, and it's all joining one. But my neural system works independently of that. It's a separate system. Even though it's tied in to some extent, it's not the same system. So we want to be able to take these two systems and have them work harmoniously together, just as good as all my ligaments and tendons and everything in my arms and all down through my body work. I want to take this complete other system and have it work directly with that one as seamlessly as possible. What does neural sports vision improve? There are a number of areas. Oh, Brian. Just going to move you for 1 second, Brian. You're on my screen. There we go. There are a number of things that could be covered in a neural sports vision session. The athlete's sport plays a big role on what the coach would be spending development time on. Some of the more common areas that you might see in a trade session could be the following. So what are you going to see? What does a sports vision coach or trainer or facility work on? We talked about the areas we're using within our eyes and our brain and our body, but now what are we going to work on? Depth perception could be one. The spatial judgment, how far an object is from you. Color vision, so to be able to pick up a color and process that, so see it and process that very, very quickly. Peripheral awareness, so being able to see side to side, up or down, trying to develop good clarity in those areas. Dynamic visual acuity, so this is where now we're moving, or the environment is moving, and then we're still able to focus on those objects as we or the environment are moving, so sort of like a hockey game. Skating up ice, having to defend or attack in the zone. Multiple object tracking, so that's just tracking multiple objects, and that takes in so much. If you're a goalie or a player, where your players are, and it comes into a timing aspect of, okay, now I'm tracking these players. I know the speed of my own team, and I think that, okay, this much time went past, here's where my player is going to be, based on all those, all the information that you gathered before, all those patterns that you've seen in practice and when you're playing your games. Reaction training, the development of decisive and quick reactions to stimuli. So many examples of goalie coming out to play a puck. No, I might not. No, oh, well, it's too late now. You got to be able to make that decision. Am I going to make that pass? I'm not going to put the puck in an area and then I'm going to think about it a little bit. I want to be able to know what I'm doing and then be able to make that decision and then follow through with that decision. Projection, the brain's ability to project or predict where an object is traveling. So if we think about a baseball player and he's a fielder, and a player at the plate just hits the ball, and he has to determine, is it on the ground? Is it a line drive? Is it up in the air? Is it coming to his side of the field? His or her? Does he have to run left or right? Does he have to run forward or back? Or is it just a home run and he's just going to stand there? So he's projecting moments after the ball leaves the bat as to where that is going to end up. And is it coming to his part of the field? And if it is, where is it going? Over his head, around him? As a goalie, we will see the puck leave a stick, and then we may not have a complete view of it all the way into our body. So our brain, even though it's disrupted, the visual line or visual tracking of that object is disrupted on the way in, our brain has the ability to project or predict where that object is going. So those are some of the things, definitely not all, but some of the ones that we could easily tie to all areas of hockey. Who benefits from neural sports vision training? I try, when I'm training goaltenders, I try to look at other sports and training methodologies and try to look at what are some of the keys that make a very good goalie successful and where else is that found in the world of sports. And when you do that, a couple that I look at is I look at motorsports drivers. I didn't put it in here specifically as a boxer, but I think boxer as well, but an MMA fighter, and that includes a little bit more, there's more disciplines in there, but not just, this is not just for one sport. This could be for all types of different stick and ball sports or a motorsport, or even at the bottom here, we have police or military. And we only have a few. These are only a few examples after all of these. I'm going to highlight the baseball players one here, depth perception. So again, if you're a fielder and the ball is hit, where is that at in the path? Do you have to dive to make the catch? Do you have to jump? Do you have to just stand there? Do you have to block it? So eye tracking throughout that, all of the hand-eye to be able to complete a hit or to be able to throw or catch a ball. Dominant eye characteristics, we think about when the baseball player's at the plate and they're turning their head. Well, one object is closer to the ball than the other eye. I mean, one eye is closer to the ball than the other eye. And this is our dominant eye. MMA fighters or boxers, same thing. They'll turn their heads a little bit. They'll have their dominant eye forward. So we look at the different sports, what they play and what they need to be able to be successful within that. So me being primarily a goalie coach, I'll look across and I look at what motorsports driver, and Brian and I were talking about this, how the multiple object tracking, just like a goalie, they have to track not only the offense, but the defense, in zone, spatial awareness, where they are in the crease, in the net, how high they are. We don't have time to look down or look around or find our posts and get comfortable in there. We have to know where that's at, especially when things go bad and we have to make a desperation save. We're looking at per projection. So when the puck is shot, being able to pick it up through traffic if we can't see the whole path of the puck. Depth selection. So like we're looking at as we're moving and another object is moving towards us, how does that impact what we see? Peripheral awareness, obviously things around us, motorsports drivers. You look at NASCAR, particularly spatial adjustment. I got a car here, I got a car here, I got one over there, I got two in back of me, and I have to know where all they're at, that are at. Not only the peripheral awareness, but the spatial awareness of what is the distance of each and how is that changing throughout. So same as you're battling a player in front. Who else is around you if you need to be able to go get a puck from the corner or make a little deflection on the net or screen the goalie, you need to know where you're at. So this is some of the different disciplines. And again, I think this goes into all sports and then even more than extends beyond sport. But here's some of the examples here. This is where I say it can extend past sport and not even like in this one where it's police or military, which is not really a sport, but this is the educational and health benefits to our neuro sports vision training. So the educational benefits from NSVT are vast. Each athlete is unique and will have a different area that they could use further development. Complete program will help identify some cognitive deficiencies and give the athlete exercises to help in those areas. Development in the following 5 areas of attention has shown dramatic increase in educational learning environments or situations. This not only can help in the classroom, but can help dramatically in teaching moments in practices or a game. For example, my daughter, she's still young, but she has a real hard time to focus on, or she did, on one task, and she get distracted. And if I give her one thing to do or a series of 2 or 3 things to do, her executive functioning on 1, 2, and 3, these are the 3 things I need to do. What was, I'm sure it's her age, but was all over the map. So I thought it was a little bit low for her age. So we took her in the vision room at AMP and did some work with her, helping her focus. And you could see what we've done there to try to get her to focus on one object or any sort of categorizing. Then she could easily determine what was important in a solution, what wasn't important, and focus a lot harder on what she needed to focus on, harder and longer to be able to do it. So now there's no issues with her paying attention or in school or reading or any of that stuff. So here's what I looked at when I said, okay, what are her difficulties? What are we seeing from her? And the focused attention. So being able to display a high level of focus on a single task, blocking out external or not important distractions. In other words, just completing a test in a classroom full of students. So if she was in class, she could get distracted very easily, and it was tough for her to keep her mind on what she had to do. Sustained attention, maintaining focus on one task for an extended period of time without being distracted. Listening to this guy give you a webinar for 45 minutes and not being distracted. That's sustained attention. Alternating attention is going back and forth between 2 tasks that usually require 2 different parts of your brain. Example, listening to a teacher and writing down what is being said. Just give me 2 seconds. Divided attention, doing 2 or more tasks simultaneously. This is referred to as multitasking. The example there is talking about dinner while playing a video game. So you're playing your video game, your mom says, what do you want for dinner? And you don't stop playing your video game. You continue to do that while you tell your mom what you want for dinner. Selective attention, focusing on one thing in the middle of an area of many activities. Activities could also be stimuli, like a hockey game. Each day we're presented with multiple stimuli at one time. Think about driving, whether it's you or your parents driving a car, all the different things that are going on. Well, they have to determine what's important. Is the skateboarder that's skateboarding in front of them important, or is the person walking on the sidewalk on the other side of the road important? And they have to be able to keep an eye out for all these different distractions and determine, hey, what's important, what's not important. So deciding who to pass to in a game, goalie fighting through a screen to see the puck. What's an important? Is the player over here important, or is the player here in front of the shot lane important? So being able to decide that sort of stuff. So these areas, I really believe in 5, that focused attention. We can think of a baseball player with focused attention. Baseball players at the plate, and the pitcher's getting ready to throw the ball, and he has the bat up, and his focus attention has to be so high in that moment. He has to be able to see that pitch and be able to know where it's going, what type of pitch is, which way it might curve or break. And when that pitch happens, and ball or strike, then his focus attention can come way down. And he steps out of the batter box and takes a couple of practice swings and looks around, and then he gets himself ready again, and then it ramps up, it spikes. And then the pitch happens, and whether they hit the ball or whether it is a ball or a strike, then it comes right down. Sustained attention is, we'll go back to motorsports, and you're a Formula One driver and you're into an hour-and-a-half race, and you don't have any time to be able to have your focus or your attention to be able to come down, because even if they're under a safety car or a flag situation, you're still driving and there's still lots of stuff going on. So their sustained attention, their endurance has to be extremely high on that one. So you think of where you might need some of these areas of attention in hockey or whatever sport you might be involved in, or definitely what we're talking about here in school or on the ice, listening to your coach, listening to your other players, what they're saying. So beyond the education part is the kind of the health side, the health, wellness, recovery side of things. So neurovisual and cognitive exercise has been used and have shown dramatic health effects. So again, we talk about the sport, the education, and now we have the wellness or recovery area. Creating personal baseline data and then having the ability to compare this healthy baseline data gathered when there's a suspected concussion is a very effective way to gauge the severity of the concussion. Once a prognosis is reached, a program can be implemented to help aid in the recovery process. Recently, there have been many studies completed on the successful use of cognitive and visual exercises on concussed patients. Studies have examined when this type of training should be implicated in the recovery process. So before I go too far here, it doesn't mean that you got a concussion Monday night at a hockey game that you're running out to do some sort of visual cognitive training Tuesday morning. You have to look at when this type of recovery method needs to be used within your path, your road to recovery, your return to play action. This is a relatively new method of rehabilitation for certain diseases and head injuries. Physiotherapists are only recently beginning to incorporate this type of training into the recovery protocols. So if you have a suspected head injury or a known head injury, best not to go to an athletic performance center to look for rehabilitation. Definitely get to your physiotherapist, and if that's what they believe in and that's what they practice, then excellent. I know, again, back to the motorsports, Dale Jr. had a series and some really bad concussions, and he went to the same place that Sidney Crosby went to in Pittsburgh, and Dale talked a lot about the visual and cognitive work that he did as part of his recovery. So when he was still showing symptoms, he was not clear to participate in the sport, and he was doing this type of training to help him progress. A few myths. I'm going to go through these quickly. Vision training is just for goalies. I think we pointed out that it can be used in we have athletics, we have education, and we have health, wellness, and recovery. So definitely not just for goalies. Training does not speed up your reaction time. I love hearing that one. I love hearing that you can't train your reaction time. You're as fast as you are. Well, there might be some studies to that, and there might be a little bit of truth with that. But if you think about what we talked about the eye. So if we can make this more effective, then we are going to speed your eventual motor reaction time up a little bit. If your brain is a little bit sharper, well, we are going to speed up your reaction time. And then if our neuromuscular system is working really well together, then we're going to speed it up. Going beyond that, speed up your reaction time to be at an optimal reaction or performance. How is your health? How was your sleep? How is your diet? So training can speed up your reaction time. We just need to look at what areas we're going to speed that up. How do I know if I need vision training or sports vision training? I get a lot of times that, he doesn't need that, he needs to be stronger, or no, my daughter's fine, she has great hand-eye coordination. And yeah, we can be innately or just through practice, through your sport or play, really good at certain areas. But if you play a sport and you want to improve in your sport, this is kind of one of those spheres of development that I think all athletes can look into. What ages are appropriate for neurosports vision training? Well, my daughter was just turned 6. Some may argue that might have been a little bit early. We got some good results. It wasn't very hard training. It was very specific to what we wanted to get out of it, and it was more on the educational side. We had excellent results. So depends on what you're looking for. I think you can use it fairly young myself. Does it have to be done in a facility, or I can do it at home? It can be done both. There's ways out there. You can do some stuff online, and then there's places where you can go and actually attend a class. Should I have an eye exam by an optometrist before starting? I work contacts and glasses, so I definitely would not do any of this training without those on, as you probably wouldn't go for a 5K run without your sneakers on. You might not have the best sneakers, and you might need new sneakers, and that may help you. Well, same thing here. If you haven't had an eye exam in a little while, it's just like your old shoes. It might still work, but maybe a new pair is going to be a little bit better. So definitely before you start anything serious, you want to look at when your last eye exam was, and then maybe look at updating that. Is eye hand training the same as neurosports vision training? A lot of the hand-eye exercises that you'll see online, and there's a lot of great YouTube channels, Instagram channels, Facebook. It is, and it can definitely fit in that category of neurosports vision training. Just when you're going to be doing any of it, try to think about what it's working on. What are you trying to get out of this? This is what everyone's waiting for. Can neurosports vision training help my gaming? Absolutely. And I think it goes the other way. I think gaming, and parents don't get mad at me here, gaming within reason can also help your neurosports vision training and help you develop some of those areas that we talked about earlier. So I think the two of them can go back and forth within reason, not 12 hours a day. So every athlete uses their eyes, brain, and body to compete at his or her sport. Sharpening each of those tools and allowing them to work together as a single unit is the key to unlocking your complete potential within your sport. Collaboration between these systems allows for the fastest, most accurate response time and movements to the decisions you are required to make during competition. And again, that kind of encompasses all sport. That can really, even, I mentioned driving earlier, you look at any age, it can really help improve maybe your golf game. I used to lose a lot of golf balls, well, probably because they go into the woods. But the ones that don't go into the woods, that actually stay somewhere around the fairway, I would lose them. And so I started to do a little bit of contrast training and trying to have my eye not skip when I was trying to follow the path, to get my eyeball to track a little bit smoother, but also be able to get that contrast training so I could see the ball against a cloudy sky, so I wouldn't almost instantly lose it when I come off the club. So neurosports vision training, almost any age, I would say, almost within reason, and any activity. Some resources, obviously at M Sports Lab, we have when we get to reopen, whenever that may be, mind speed is what we call it, and that's where we do our neurodynamic agility training. So we'll be having a full dedicated, I know some of you guys have been there before, we've changed locations within the facility and added a ton of new stuff, so that's going to be great when we can get back at it. Sharper has some specialized health, agility, recovery, performance. They do a lot of different stuff there, and they do a lot of remote visual packages, and they sell some training aids and some tools. They got some neat stuff there. Definitely check those guys out. And of course, we talked about the health and wellness side of sports vision training, and AMP Sports Lab does have Fit Physio, and they do incorporate some of this type of training into their rehabilitation. So if that's ever a thought, or something that you might want to try when there's a concussion, I do know that those guys do use it there. So if you guys have any questions beyond this, my email's there at the bottom. I can also be reached through Brian or Jeff at HEO, so please don't hesitate to reach out and give me a shout. Questions, comments, gripes, I welcome all of it, please. So Brian, do you have any, you got your mic muted. There we go. There we go. Any questions come in?
There weren't any as you were presenting. So now's your chance, folks. If you have any questions, throw them into the chat. We do have one. I had one written down, and one of the participants fired it right at the end, along the lines of incorporating some of this into on ice practice. And being the goalie guru guy that you are, maybe you can speak to it with, in the context of, say, maybe some goalie drills. But are there some simple things or simple do's and don'ts or little tricks of the trade, so to speak, that coaches can bring into their practice designs that will help bring some of this NSVT theory into the drills they're running, the games they're playing, the activities they're doing with their players on ice, to help incorporate some of that?
It's all through, and I think so many coaches do it without even realizing it. And I don't mean that as a knock as coaches, but they're asking for it, and the players maybe aren't giving them some of that. So, for example, at CIH, the Canadian International Hockey Academy, I will skate with the teams at times, and so they can have from grade 8 all the way up to grade 12. So, especially in the younger grades, some of the players have a tough time, let's say, skating, handling a puck. No issues so far. They're skating down the ice, they're handling a puck. But the coach is asking them to talk, to call out for a pass, to yell to what's going on. And in the younger ages, they really struggle with that. And that, I brought up this page because it's the third one down, the middle one, alternating attention, alternating your focus back and forth between two tasks that usually require the use of two different parts of your brain. So you're skating and stick handling, that's all one part, that's taken care of. You got that, no problems. But now using a different part, be audible on the ice is huge. When I played, I couldn't play and talk at the same time. No problem after a whistle, like Mr. Stathos, no issues there. No problem any other time, but I would have to physically stop what I was doing in the net to yell something and then start back up again. Now, go over to Clarkson, and all of those guys, practice is so loud. They're much older. Also are post junior. So we're looking at an average age probably 20, 21. And no issues doing this because they've been maybe forced to do it for longer, and they're loud, but they still practice it. So we have a goalie session, and those guys will still yell for passes, talk to each other, and they're just making a simple pass from the corner out to the slot, and the guy making or receiving the pass is yelling for that pass. So he's working his alternate attention on every shot. So we can definitely work, whether it's something just in our eyes, tracking, following a puck, if passes are being made and you're a goalie, watch the passes your team is making. Maybe what we'll do to work on some spatial environment at AMP is I'll get the goalies to start in an odd or awkward position, and then I want them to know where they're at and how to get back into position. So we try to develop some spatial awareness there, not just start where you're comfortable and then create that. We talked about neuroplasticity earlier, not just start from the post and push out, start from the post and push out. Well, we're creating a really good neural highway from starting from the post and pushing out. But if I get you to do that a few times, great. But now I want you to start maybe with a foot outside the post, or I want you to start in the middle, or I want you to start a little bit sideways because maybe you got bumped. And if you can't handle some of those rigors of a game, then maybe you're not going to be as successful as some of the people who can. So we try to take the rigors and some of the things that we need in a game and bring them over to the practice. Make sense, sort of?
Yeah, great. Just a little bit of a housekeeping matter. A couple of questions have come in about the link to the video. We'll be sharing the link to this recorded session after the session is over. The recording is saved and it's processed. It takes a little bit of time, but we'll get it uploaded somewhere and make the link available to everyone who's attended. Couple more questions, Merce. How much time? I'm going to give you two here because they're probably short answer type things. One of the questions came in from Joe Van Dusen. How much time per week or day should a goaltender work on their cognitive training? So that's, how much time, daily, weekly. And another question from Sam Myers: what sort of at-home cognitive vision drills can young goaltenders do?
So those are great questions, by the way. Excellent questions. First off, Sam, I would say source out some drills. So get online, Google around, and write them down. Get your notepad out and write all these down, a little explanation, and then see where they fit in to our three areas that we talked about. Pardon me if that was really quick. See where they fit in with what we see. Is it a purely a visual? Is it a processing exercise? Or is it a physical or a reaction type exercise that creates a body reaction? Or what of those three are in on it? Usually there's almost always two. Some new machinery can work on one at a time, which is great. But usually anything you're going to do, you find online or you're going to do at home is going to work with two of them, and that's fine. But just know what you're working and then try to slot it in those categories. So when you make your little plan for yourself for that day, you're trying to hit all three. You're doing some that you're just working your eye. We have sessions every Tuesday, hand-eye sessions every Tuesday. Check out another plug here. Check out the AMP Sports Lab Facebook page. We do it every Tuesday. And, we start off with just tracking our thumbs as we move them around. And so that's just working our eye. We're not working our brain. I know where it's going. It's going to the right. I can see it. I'm just tracking it. Then we get into trying to use a little bit of our brain. And then we get into a little bit of body stuff. So write that all down. On to Thomas's question there is you can work your eyes maybe a little bit more, kind of like a muscle. You'll feel it when it gets fatigued. Your eyes will get a little heavy, and you're really not going to do any damage. You'll feel fatigue in there. The second part, the processing part, that's where there's some debate on to how much we should do and how much time we should just spend on something like NeuroTracker or there's a bunch of different ones out there now that all use boards and reading and looking, and that sort of stuff, we definitely want to limit it. I would say the kind of accepted norm is about 30 minutes a day, just working your brain. And again, you will feel it. We've had a lot of people leave our vision room without doing any sort of bodily work, very fatigued. And so you can, again, you're not really going to do any damage, but you're really not going to get the results you want from there. So if you're working just a lot of cognitive stuff, which you can still do at home, I would keep it around 20 minutes, 30 minutes if you've been doing it for a while.
Awesome stuff. There's been a couple of questions thrown in with respect to maintenance certification points for these webinars. We are putting something in place. Jeff, I don't know if you're still on. I think you are. I'm not sure if Jeff has arranged for this one to be included, but I do know that things are in the works for at least starting with the next webinar next week to address how and what coaches can get in terms of points for certification maintenance for attending these. So, there's Jeff. I'll let you speak a little bit more to this one.
Yes, when we send the link out, I'll need the coaches who are certified just to reply to me, either Dev1 or HP1 certified. I'll put it into the HCR or to your eHockey account, and you will get 3 points for each of these that you attend.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Good news for a lot of coaches. The schedule for the upcoming webinars is on the HEO website. It's right on our homepage on our splash ad, the scrolling little splash ads that you'll see. They're every Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Next week, we have Pat Malloy. The exact topic wording, it's not right at the top of my head, but the gist of his presentation will be looking at game-specific scenarios and what type of decision-making and hockey IQ fits into those scenarios and how it can be applied and whatnot. The session after that is Jason Clark from the Carleton Place Canadians. He's going to be doing a session on habits for elite players. Brent Sullivan from the Ottawa GGs is doing a session on developing offensive skills in young defensemen. I'm doing a session on transfer of learning, how to move players from the practice environment to the game very seamlessly, which, Merce, I will be stealing some of this and
You can have it.
taking some of your thunder. It's very applicable. Jeff, I believe, is going to be doing a session on coaching philosophy, sort of like the psychology of coaching. So we've got a really nice lineup. And like I said earlier, to start the seminar, the webinar, we're working on more, trying to, if we can make it work, to try to extend it as long as we can within reason, and try to keep some development moving forward from the branch out to coaches and players, and help people learning when I know we're all feeling the pinch of not being able to be at the rink and on the ice and in clinics. So we're hoping this can help. Just looking at the chat here, some more questions about certification. I'll leave those to when Jeff sends the email out, because we can add some more information in the email when we share the recording link to give some more direction and whatnot on the whole certification question. Just looking through here. Do we have to re-register for the events? Yes, each event is its own registration. So there's no rollover of registration from event to event. Oh, here's one for you, Merce. I think it's for you. Yep. Are there any specific tools or equipment that you use when coaching that you can recommend, especially during this time when going to training facilities is not possible? So around the whole NSVT, are there any, things that can be bought, homemade, things that are around the house already that young players can be using to do this training at home? Or even once we get back to the ice.
Yeah, and they can be used the whole time. The answer is both. Like I said, we did some online, just some free, come on in, join us. And the goal there was to be able to use some household items to be able to do this type of training. So in week one, we had the students get dice, coins, $1, some sort of dollar bill. Doesn't need to be $1, but it could be a bill, and Kleenex. And then, of course, we had tennis balls in there as well. And so those are just some items that they could grab, and then our drills incorporated those items. So, and then this week we had a couple different kinds of balls. We had some painter's tape for a makeshift kind of light board, as some of the guys have called it online, on the wall to be able to work some recognition skills, audible messages, and so a variety of different multi-system use there. And that was just painter's tape and a marker. Our warm-up involved, I got Ottawa Mortgage Brokers as my pen here, but the warm-up involved a pen, which everyone has. I got a bunch of them here that I've stolen from hotels and whatnot through the years. And it was about tracking and using anything we could, small writing on that we could hold at arm's length and read. So there's a lot of different things you can do. And again, when you go online, you can see a ton of stuff. But the second one down there, Sharper, they sell some vision packages with some instruction in there. They sell the Neuro Tracker. So they do a year license on it. They'll do virtual coaching too, where I'm involved with that. So I help coach the athletes to give them their, kind of walk them through their protocol, whatever their sport is, and help them through that on a yearly basis. So there's definitely ones you can buy. You don't need to spend a lot of money on it. But there's some tools out there that can be picked up around your house, or you can go and purchase them.
Excellent. Great. Well, that brings us to the end of the questions.
Okay.
As Jeff said, keep an eye on your email. One will be coming out with a link to the recording once we get the recording processed. Some information in there perhaps about certification and maintenance points. For future webinars, keep an eye on all of our social media streams, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, our website. The page that has the schedule on it will also have a link to the next session coming up. Unfortunately, because of the way some of these webinar platforms work, we do have a cap, but we do keep registration open to go beyond the cap of 100, just so that we can ensure that anybody that isn't able to get on as a participant, we can keep them on the waiting list and at least send a link of the recording and get some information in their hands and help them out in that regard. So
The link for the registration should be out either tonight or tomorrow morning at some point.
awesome. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you again,
Andrew.
Jeff and Brian. If anyone has any, again, comments, you liked it, you didn't like it, that's how we all learn. My email's at the bottom there. Please don't hesitate to send off something that you liked, didn't like, something you got out of it, or if you do have more questions, more than happy to answer them. So fire me off an email.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Andrew. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and hope to see as many of you as possible next week when Pat Malloy stands on the stage. Good night, everybody.
You back? Can you hear me?